afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Vermont thrives on volunteers. Volunteers help support our schools and communities. They staff our food shelves and animal shelters, and they're part of our libraries, museums, and parks. We all know a volunteer who's made a difference, and never is that more evident than during emergencies. Vermont has about 3,000 certified EMS providers. Many of them are volunteers. We also have volunteers in the Medical Reserve Corps, known as MRC. Today we're going to focus on MRC volunteers and how they make a difference in our health, safety, and preparedness. Joining me now is Derek Pitts. Derek is the state coordinator of the Medical Reserve Corps. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me about the Medical Reserve Corps. It's part of On Call for Vermont. What's that?
Yeah, so On Call for Vermont is an effort by the Vermont Department of Health to recruit more volunteers for volunteer EMS, emergency medical services, and the MRC, Medical Reserve Corps.
And so tell us about EMS.
EMS are the people that respond to the 911 calls when you have a trauma or medical emergency. In Vermont, about 70% of the volunteers, 70% of the EMS agencies are either partially volunteer or fully staffed by volunteers. They answer about 70,000 EMS calls a year, and volunteers do that for no pay or just enough to get reimbursed for expenses. To get involved, to basically become an EMS provider, training can start at less than a 100-hour course to begin to learn how to do things, all the way up to paramedic school, which is a year-long training process.
Wow. And so how about the Medical Reserve Corps?
So the Medical Reserve Corps is another part of the program. Medical Reserve Corps are community-level volunteer organizations that support health departments, hospitals, and their local communities. Members can volunteer as much time as they like on preparedness outreach, health and wellness activities, and or just be called in times of need to help with emergency responses like hospital medical surge or screening, testing, and passing out medical supplies and so forth.
Do you have to have a medical background to take
No,
part?
no, you don't. Anyone 18 and up can join either organization. Many people join with not much medical experience or background at all. They just want to help their neighbors out. And the MRC is made up of both medical and non-medical volunteers. Medical volunteers can serve up to their license level, while non-medical volunteers can help out with logistics, coordination, administrative work, and outreach activities.
So you really don't need to have a particular skill. You just need to want to help people.
Yes, exactly.
And so talk a little bit about some of the training that goes into what the volunteers do.
Yep. So volunteers basically get a lot of the training is basically kind of management and structural kind of training. So incident command structure. So they learn what roles they'll fill, how kind of coordination kind of goes and stuff like that. So they really learn where to be. They do psychological first aid training, which basically prepares them mentally for kind of helping out with these emergencies, and then also to recognize the signs of people struggling and kind of help people identify people that really need that mental health need.
How important is to have this kind of a structure in place when something happens?
It's very important. So basically, if you don't have the structure in place, you'll basically be getting a lot of different pieces all at once, and you won't know how to kind of coordinate them out logistically, and you'll spend time doing that opposed to time not doing that. Another benefit of this program is that health volunteers, they get pre-background checked and their licenses get registered in our system. So we're not spending time running people's background checks, verifying their license verifications and so forth.
I understand the Medical Reserve Corps is spread across a number of units around the state?
Yeah. So it's all across the state. We have 9 MRC. We now have 9 MRC units and about 340 volunteers. So it's and we're always hoping to get more volunteers. More folks that are interested in helping and so forth.
Tell me a little bit about the time commitment for these folks, because I know that's a big concern for people when they think about volunteering, is how much time is it going to take? For
the MRC, people can volunteer as much time as they want. Only be basically called in times of need if they wish. But generally, units, they'll have about 2 or 3 activities per month, and volunteers can elect to, be at all of them, or just a couple of them, or just, be called when needed.
And it's also good, if you're a volunteer, to get this kind of training under your belt, because that's something you can even use on a resume.
Exactly. You get a lot of beneficial training. A lot of the units offer CPR training. Folks are always kind of looking for that. There's lots of leadership training, so that's always a beneficial one as well.
Terrific. Well, this is a good time to pass along the contact information for Vermont's Medical Reserve Corps. As Derek mentioned, you don't need to be a trained medical professional to volunteer. So to find out more, you can call the number on your screen. It's 802-863-7310, or you can check the website, oncallforvt.org. The number again is 863-7310, or the website is oncallvt.org. Joining me now are 2 of Vermont's Medical Reserve Corps volunteers. I want to welcome Dr. Ted Marcy and Helen Short. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Ted, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. I was a pulmonary physician at UVM Medical Center for a number of years. And I had also gotten a master's of public health at Harvard sort of mid-career. I elected to leave full-time medical practice to do a reinvention, a reboot, to allow myself to be able to do a number of different volunteer activities. And I haven't been disappointed. There's a lot going on. And the MRC is one of those volunteer opportunities that I've enjoyed being part of.
What are some of the things you've done so far?
Well, the 2 actions that really were actual public health interventions was in 2012, there was a pertussis outbreak, and we did a mass immunization in Burlington. I was literally the sharp end of the needle. I did the immunizations, but there was a whole system of working people through that was really quite amazing, and it was nice to be part of a big team to make that happen. The second was when a primary school in the area, the staff and students had been exposed to somebody with active tuberculosis, and we had to do tuberculosis testing, and that involves doing a kind of a funky little test where you have to get a needle just underneath the dermis. And so I spent 2 days doing those testing in kids to adults, but again, as part of a big team that could make that happen. So it was very interesting exercises in public health. Perhaps just as important is participating in these drills or exercises, point of distribution of drugs. That was amazing. My hand hurt for a day afterwards. There was so much writing. But just to see the problems, and so we could do it better if we ever had such a thing. And then a mass casualty drill at the airport where an airplane crash.
A simulation.
A simulation. That was very helpful, again, in understanding what would take place and where the problems were.
And Helen, what about your background?
Okay, I'm a registered nurse, and I'm also an educator. And as being an educator has been very helpful for the Medical Reserve Corps because I teach first aid and CPR. I also do presentations to the community on secrets of survival, how to survive in place, shelter in place if there's like a flood or a blizzard or whatever. What do you need at home to do? And I've also taken part in several exercises. One that was fun, I'll put that in quotes, was there was a simulation that there was a tornado that hit a football stadium. 250 people were injured, just putting a big push on the hospital. So there's plans to set up small hospitals, med-surg hospitals, and the Medical Reserve Corps would help staff those, and we set them up. And so it was a matter of unloading cots from boxes that hadn't been opened yet, getting them open, getting IV poles up, getting the oxygen concentrators in. And it's really important that we practice this stuff so that when something actually happened, we could do it very, very quickly.
I mean, everybody's been watching what's been happening weather-wise down south and the hurricane damage and so forth. How important is it to have these training
Very important.
Happening?
As a matter of fact, there's some of our members have actually gone to the south to help out at Red Cross shelters and stuff, so we can go across state lines.
And so As retirees, what made you join the MRC, and why would you recommend that other folks do the same thing? I mean, you both have medical backgrounds,
Right.
but you don't necessarily.
But we also need people to help carry, move supplies. I was at a national conference that said it takes 4 to 5 lay volunteers to support a medical volunteer. So
No
we
kidding.
really do need people. And we provide, there's core training for them. We provide first aid, CPR, mental health first aid, incident command. So they come in and we train them for what we need to do. And we practice these drills so they know their point, like the points of distribution, like Ted talked about. You know, we need people to move those products up, whether it be immunizations, whether it be antibiotics and stuff, get them up to the people who can distribute them.
And how important is it? I know for you to be a volunteer is very important, but what do you get out of that? What do you tell people who are thinking about maybe volunteering for this?
Well, you get a sense of meaning, of course, by being able to help other people. I think we all want to do that. I have gotten to meet some very interesting people who do different things than I do. But I have also learned things that I've been able to apply in different aspects. So Derek mentioned incident command structure. Well, I only learned that when I became an MRC volunteer and had to take the course that's on the FEMA website. But I used that knowledge to help put together a safety plan for our yacht club this past weekend when we put on a regatta. And I used incident command structure, and I defined roles, and we did a tabletop exercise, and all of that I learned by being part of the MRC. So it benefits me.
And how about for you, Helen?
I've had some wonderful opportunities. I've actually attended 2 national conferences in preparedness, and I really would like to make a plug for preparedness. If the community that's prepared, a household that's prepared, recovers better from an emergency. And in terms of being a volunteer, you know, I'm retired, I'm not dead.
Clearly.
Right, literally, right. And I think staying active and engaged helps, you know, keep you in better physical and emotional health. So there's really lots of benefits to being a volunteer.
You know, you mentioned home preparedness. What are some key things that people at home should think about?
Could you put your hands on a flashlight if the lights went out?
Yes.
Okay, that's very good. Lots of people can't. The other thing is having like 2 to 3 days of water on supply. Even if you're on a public water system, you don't know. Like Irene wiped out the public water supply in the community that my parents lived in, so they had no water. So you should have some water for flushing when necessary, as well as some drinking water. You should have food available that you can eat without much cooking. Things in the refrigerator are going to go bad within 4 hours. Your freezer, it depends how much you have in there. Having an emergency plan for where to go. And the other thing is, if you have to leave your home, to have 3 to 5 days of medicine put up so that you could just grab it, because people going to shelters without their medicine, and then their medical problem becomes worse.
So you should have this ongoing, not necessarily wait till you see a forecast that says, uh-oh, a hurricane's heading our way.
Exactly.
Go kid, all set.
All set.
And so some final words on why you think the MRC is so important.
If there is a disaster, the paid professionals at the Department of Health are not enough to be able to respond. You need to have the buffer of volunteers to fill in as the need becomes overwhelming. So we provide that flexibility, and we're happy to do so.
And you're medical professionals, but you can't do your job unless you have support staff.
Absolutely, we need support people.
And so what kind of a time commitment is it for folks?
It's about as much as you want to make it. Okay, so I'm the volunteer coordinator for our unit, so I have much more time involved, but there are some people who just come out for the drills. They don't come to the monthly meetings and stuff like that. So it's just, you have to have the basic training, but after that, you can put into it what you want to put into it.
And once again, for basic training, it's great for anybody to have that kind of training.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And we do offer, our unit offers to the community CPR first aid, and we're going to start offering a program called You're the Help Until Help Arrives. So
Interesting.
in terms of emergencies, like, you know, somebody dropped right next to you, what are you going to do?
Right, or someone in your workplace even.
Right, exactly. Or, you know, if a bomb went off or whatever.
Right.
You're the help until the EMS people get there.
All right. Well, just as a reminder before we go to learn more about Vermont's Medical Reserve Corps, you can call 802-863-7310 or check the website oncallforvt.org. I want to thank you both for joining me today, and thank
Thank
you
you,
for your
Judy.
work.
Thank you.
Great
Okay.
volunteer work.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.